So Chopper 5. So they made the move. They waited 41 minutes. Curfew is in effect. We're not gathering in Minneapolis tonight. It's not happening. They're not going to let that happen this evening.
And we heard from our Department of Public Safety, promising that law enforcement's presence will triple in size to address what they call a sophisticated network of urban warfare that they believe will take place in our streets tonight.
And so Ryan, we can tell you, is getting out of there, and we're going to pull him back. Appreciate him being there, but it's time for us to move on from that. We can do this from the air, and that is the best place for us to be right now as we look at this. You can see tear gas or some sort of chemical that they're going and throwing into that group, and they're moving back. Yeah, for sure.
Matt Belanger, you've been watching this play out with us. These are stunning images.
Yeah, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, you can see people dispersing in this intersection, and I think that line of law enforcement and maybe National Guard members we saw just moments ago, I think is approaching from the right-hand side, and we see the explosions of the flashbangs, the smoke, the tear gas, such a difficult situation to watch there with our live camera, really caught right in the middle of that, and we're all hoping that our crew there on the ground is okay. We're giving them the time that they need to get to safety. But you can see just at a moment's notice how quickly it's like a switch flipped here.
They moved, the guard moved out and moved in quickly.
And clearly we're seeing people who are determined to stay and who sadly may be determined to reignite the rioting and the damage and the violence that we've seen now night after night.
Well, look at this on the right.
Yeah. And that's that line. Remember that we saw? So remember that, and look at how deep that is of officers storming this intersection right now live in this view from the air.
Deploying what we believe to be tear gas and flashbangs. We saw pepper spray being used in Ryan Raich's live shot.
So guys, let's talk about where this is. So this is right outside the 5th Precinct. Okay, so this is Nicollet and East 31st Street, just on the south side of the city is where we're looking at. So what's around there? I think there's a Wells Fargo right there. This is the area where there is not far away from that Kmart, the only Kmart in town. There's an Office Depot or Office Max and a dollar store not far from the Blaisdell YMCA, a few blocks up from that. So that's the area that we're talking about here in town, and you can see this, they have moved in with force.
Yeah, there's just this smoke overwhelming the image now.
I believe Kirsten Swanson is somewhere in. Okay, she's getting herself set up. She got out of the way, and they're getting set up. So she's not far from that area, but minutes ago, this was a crowd of people right in that spot. Look at that. It's empty right now.
And we did see in Ryan Raich's live shot a young woman. She was pepper sprayed by authorities. And you saw how the people around her started first with water on her face to try to get rid of that sting. Then they moved to milk. And that was kind of the moment things really started taking a turn.
Yeah.
Matt?
Paul and Jackie, guys, let's break down kind of what we're seeing here on the screen. Minutes ago, we did see that large police, law enforcement, maybe National Guard presence emerge from behind the 5th Precinct there and move in that several-person deep line straight to the intersection right there at 31st and Nicollet where people were gathered. I mean, it's basically cleared out now, and you can see behind the human line that they've made at the intersection, and it's hard almost to see through all the smoke and from the flashbangs and the tear gas, but behind that you have what looks like a fire vehicle or something, followed by state patrol vehicles behind that. So they've backed up the human law enforcement and military presence here with vehicles. This is the strongest show of support that we've seen. Governor Tim Walz earlier today did say tonight's going to be different. And I think this is what we're seeing right now. There they are advancing once again here as we watch this unfold live in South Minneapolis.
We want to bring in our Kirsten Swanson now. She's in a safe location. Kirsten, what are you seeing?
Yeah, guys, we're back on Nicollet here. So the last time you checked in with me, what had happened is that the authorities down there had deployed some tear gas, and the wind out here is starting to kick up. It was bringing it all the way up the street. You could just see people running. It looks like they're still at it too. So what that did was really scatter that big group all into the little neighborhood streets along here. We saw people, putting water into their eyes, and my photographer Lee and I caught quite a whiff of it too, and it took us a few minutes to kind of get our bearings back. We're back here safe on the street. You can see protesters, now that the air has cleared a little bit, back down the street and starting to kind of emerge from the places that they scattered from. But again, it's hard to tell because there's a little bit of a hill in the way here. It looks like they are spraying what appears to be something, likely tear gas, right toward the front line of there. But a lot of these protesters continuing down the street, or at least trying to continue down the street here. It's difficult to see again because we're in kind of a back spot here. But
well,
we're
glad you're in a safe spot. We want to be able to make sure that you are safe. That's the most important thing, right? As we look at this,
an overwhelming amount of smoke now.
Yeah, tear
from
gas,
this aerial footage.
Yeah, and I mean this is a whole lot more than what we have seen from Minneapolis police when they were deploying tear gas. You didn't see that quite this much, and you see it here in full force. And you're right. Governor Walz said this is going to be different tonight, and what we're seeing is certainly different. Yeah, that looks like there's perhaps a National Guard apparatus vehicle behind them, Matt. I think so. Yeah.
Vehicle there immediately behind that human line of law enforcement, and then several other vehicles behind that, and that line continuing to move forward.
Eric Rasmussen is also not far away in that area as well. Eric, where are you? What's going on?
All right, guys, I'm here. We are at 31st and Blaisdell. You can see the officers have moved in. We're just a block away from where the main protest was happening. They have fired off some tear gas in the area. I'm just adjusting my mask here. Bear with me. Photographer Joe Caffrey is following some of the officers. This is the Wells Fargo parking lot. The crowd is making its way out of here that we can see. And this all just erupted maybe in the last 5-10 minutes. We're going to keep following from a safe distance here as you see them throw a flashbang right there in front of us.
It looks
some
like
bottles are coming back in our direction.
Wow,
Eric, please get to safety.
Yeah, watch yourself.
Your safety is a priority right now.
Watch yourself.
We heard from the governor today saying that his priority was to respond as fast as possible tonight, and we are starting to see that play out right now.
It looks like those officers, we don't know if they're National Guard, if they're police officers. It looks like a combination, exactly what they said we would see tonight. And they're not stopping. As the crowd moves, they're moving on, and several steps that they take, they fire off tear gas. The crowd is going to have to leave tonight. They're going to have to go home because they're not going to give up.
And Paul, I think to your point there, what we're watching unfold is this is very deliberate show of force. It's very, very orchestrated in its movements. If you take note, they're advancing a particular distance at a time. They're securing one area. First, it started at the street right there outside of the precinct. They moved to the intersection. They paused there. Then they push forward. Pause again, which is what we're seeing right now, almost to regroup and form that human barrier with the reinforcement of the vehicles of the National Guard vehicle behind, and then some more vehicles even behind that. And for those individuals who are in violation now of the law, who are remaining in this area, this is the clash that we feared would unfold here tonight. But clearly there was plenty of warning about the rule that was going to go in place again tonight at 8 o'clock to get out of the area. And this area where we saw a peaceful demonstration for hours and hours this afternoon has now sadly become this clash with authorities and individuals who have chosen to stay behind.
Well, in previous nights we had seen, them deploying tear gas and holding strong lines, but this is certainly a much larger presence tonight.
But you have to keep in mind, up until 8 o'clock, yes, it's considered a peaceful protest. Once it is not, after 8 o'clock, it's part of the problem, and that's what the governor tried to tell everyone. If you're not home by 8 o'clock, this is what you will encounter.
On the left side of your screen now, we're seeing images from where Kirsten Swanson is, and you can kind of see people running around, kind of like what looks like a tear gas haze in the distance, more tear gas being deployed, officers right there. They're on the move.
State Patrol, I see listed on their vests. I mean, they are in full riot gear. Make no mistake about it. The individuals who are behind and are engaging in this type of violence, opposing the law enforcement and military officers who are approaching to try and secure the area, they are rioting. They are violating the law. It is 1 hour almost past when the curfew went into place. Another live view from the ground as we also take in the view of this area, South Minneapolis, from above, and you can see exactly what we've been watching now since this started. That very deliberate movement of kind of moving forward in a very orchestrated way and making sure that the human law enforcement presence never spreads too thin. They're maintaining that strength in formation and in that line.
So what we're looking at on the left is Eric Rasmussen's camera, and you just saw he's right around 31st and Blaisdell, so he's a block off of Nicollet and the 5th precinct where this was. I think an officer just walked up to him just to kind of make sure who he was and what they were doing. Media, we are allowed to be on the streets tonight. We're some of the only people that are allowed to be on the streets this evening. Who's running here? Does this
It's
National
hard
Guard
to make out from this vantage point whether those are officers.
It looks like they're lining up to form yet another barrier, and just to widen and secure the perimeter. It does look like, they're joining that larger line that's already in place. They're trying to secure across this large parking lot at this shopping center.
Yeah, as we pull back, that comes into focus, exactly how they're lining up.
Just a heartbreaking view. I mean, look at the piles of debris there in the parking lot.
In the air.
Minneapolis left virtually unrecognizable in some neighborhoods at this point, and heartbreaking to watch this unfold on our streets tonight.
The point of this tonight is to keep order in our streets. And the point of this tonight is to make sure that nothing else is destroyed and nothing else is damaged. And that is the point of what Governor Walz has said all day long. This is what you're going to see tonight. And if you aren't off the streets, this is what will happen. And we are seeing that now. And we want our city protected. We've asked for the National Guard. The National Guard has arrived, and you see how the National Guard takes action.
We certainly had enough warning time to know to be off the streets by 8 o'clock tonight. Here we are 53 minutes into that, and clashes with protesters are evident at this point. Protesters now breaking the law.
So I don't think we are hearing of any other problems right now. So
I was just thinking of that, Paul.
Yeah, I haven't heard of anything else, and this is a good sign.
Well, we don't know where the big group of people who were still at that intersection went to at this moment, and we also don't know what the other law enforcement / National Guard response looks like at this moment, and where they also might be and ready to close in on this area. We know this was one of the larger gatherings. I know one of the things that our news team is working to check on, there was another calm, peaceful gathering earlier tonight outside of Hennepin County Attorney Mike Freeman's home in the Lake Harriet area. It's not far exactly from this, where we're looking live from the helicopter right now this evening, but I'm sure we'll be learning as the evening progresses whether these individuals have gathered in yet another area, and whether we're going to see this type of clash again repeated across the city tonight.
Let's go down to the ground to our Eric Rasmussen, who has a better vantage point of what's happening on the ground. Eric, what are you seeing now?
Well, we've moved down a block on Blaisdell from 31st to Lake Street here, so we're at Lake and Blaisdell. You can see the officers lined up in the intersection. They were clearing out a crowd that was here, and that crowd has largely dispersed. Okay, we're moving. I'm being told to move. This way. Okay.
Okay, so he's going to have to get out of the way, it sounds like. So
he's pointing me this way.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so we have to follow the rules too. So we're going to get out of the way. and stay out of the problems as best as we can. We want to try to bring you the pictures, but we do have Chopper 5 above the scene. It looks like they're going to completely clear off that block all around the 5th precinct there, because I saw the White Castle over there, which is at Blaisdell.
Oh, there's some more of that crowd that was evident earlier. It's much thinner now than it was.
Yeah, it is much
at 8
thinner than it was. Okay, Kirsten Swanson on the ground somewhere near this area as well. Kirsten, update us.
Yeah, so we are at right a block off of Nicollet Avenue, which is right down there. That is where, right before you saw that line of State Patrol making their way up Nicollet Avenue there, dispersing canisters of tear gas, trying to get the crowd to disperse. And I can tell you, boy, it worked. What we were watching were this massive group of protesters just scatter off into the neighborhoods here. Still, some were hanging around trying to kind of come back up to the line there. What I can tell you from being on the ground here is this is a significant escalation that Governor Walz was talking about. They were being serious that if you're out after curfew, they're going to take action and make sure that you end up going home. And at least at this point, we can't be up on Nicollet Avenue because the State Patrol have it completely blocked off and are working their way southbound down here, which was opposite to where the protesters were going. So we're about a block off, trying to keep our eye on where people are scattering to. But again, everybody here, like I said, once those tear gas canisters went off, just completely got out of the way. A lot of them scattered off into the neighborhoods here along Nicollet Avenue and 24th Street. We're also hearing some sirens in the distance. Looks like a van, an unmarked van of some sort, just went right through the intersection there. I don't know if you could see that. But again, just for our safety, we're about a block off of Nicollet Avenue where a lot of this was happening. Now, what we saw before when that State Patrol line deployed those first set of tear gas canisters was that massive crowd just scatter, and trying to get them back together seems to be a little bit of a challenge. So at this point, the situation here is much calmer than it was even 5 minutes ago, guys.
Okay, Kirsten Swanson there on the ground. I'm glad you're in a safe distance. She's at Nicollet and 24th, and we're just making sure that she's in a safe spot, but she can still see a lot of what's going on. And, you know, what we see going on is what Governor Walz said would happen tonight. So